The April 16, 2026 Joint Measure E and G Oversight Committee meeting. City meetings may be observed live on Salinas Channel, on YouTube, Zoom, or Comcast Channel 25. Zoom webinar participation is available for members of the public. The Zoom webinar ID and link are available on the posted agenda on the city website. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk, please call the roll for Measure E Committee.
Committee Member Fragoso.
Present.
Committee Member Ish.
Here.
Committee Member Kelson.
Here.
Committee Member Morales.
Here.
Committee Member Valenzuela. Chair Hobby.
Here. Clerk, please call the roll for Measure G Committee.
Committee Member Field.
Here.
Committee Member McCaleb. Here. Committee Member Mendoza. Committee Member Noroyan. Committee Member Salmina. Chair Sandoval. Given that the Measure G Committee does not have a quorum, the action items today for Measure G will not be heard. Measure G committee members are welcome to still participate in the administrative report since there is no action item. But to clarify, items ID number 26-003 and item 26-166 will not take any action due to lack of quorum from Measure G committee.
We are now open for public comment on items that are not on the agenda and that are in the City of Salinas subject matter jurisdiction. Comments on specific items should be held until the items are reached. Public comments generally are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. I may limit the time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule.
Hi, good afternoon, Jose Garza, Montevilla community. I'm back here again to let you know that we need a lot more transparency in the city here. You guys want to pass this Measure E, and I can talk about it because you're not going to go over it today, so I'm going to talk about it. I want to say you piggybacked a bunch of, not you, the city, piggybacked a bunch of other items that never used to be on there. So now I think it's very unfair for the citizens to have to bite the bullet and pay the tax for that because we cannot function as a city properly. And I blame that on the city manager and the mayor. They need to do their job and balance those books along with our finance department. I don't see you have all these professionals that work for you and still you send out everything to be processed through somebody else. Someone else has to do all your reviews, all your mandated items that need to be checked. I think that's wrong. You guys need to really come clean and be responsible for what you do. So I'm going to say, I hope it passes. I don't think it will, and a lot of people will be affected. And it's going to be the fault of the people up there, the city council members, the mayor, and the city manager. You guys need to do your jobs. You're getting paid now. So every city council member that complains about they get a phone call or someone's bothering them, step down. Mayor Donahue, if you don't want to do your job, step down if you're tired. Take a vacation. Mr. Mendez, if you don't want to do your job as a city manager, step down. Let someone else take the reins. Let someone else lead this beautiful city into a better way because we're wasting too much money. Too much money is being reallocated in areas that we don't need to have been done. And I'm tired of it. I'm very upset with it. I'm a taxpayer. And all you guys up there, please, when you guys vote whatever you want to do, but remember, make it the right thing. God bless you guys.
Hi. Peter Zalai, I used to be on Measure E and Measure G, and so I'm wrestling a little bit with the renewal proposal that is going to be presented to the City Council in terms of having a no sunset. So it's going to mirror the same strategy that was used for what used to be Measure V, then became Measure E. So the second time they ran it with no sunset. So to make it permanent, they're going to do the same thing now with Measure G, is going to be the recommendation, although the City Council has to vote on that. And so in 2015, when the Measure G first came about, there was a whole lot of discussion about what the oversight would look like. And there was some controversy at that time, and you know, what the language intended, whether there was going to be 1 meeting or 3 meetings or 4 meetings, and how independent the Oversight Committee was going to be. And so I'm wrestling a little bit because we know that most of our income as a city comes from sales tax and property tax. And so Measure E and Measure G are substantial parts of our revenue. And so in a way, you know, why monkey with that in the future? Why put additional burden on the staff or on the community to pay for a campaign to get people to vote? And so in one way, it makes a lot of sense to make it permanent. On the other hand, I'm a little bit leaning towards not making it permanent, having maybe a 10-year or 15-year, again, sunset on it, because I think it increases oversight, it increases accountability, it increases transparency, it increases at least some examination by ordinary people like you and me, and to see what the city is doing. And they should welcome that. They should welcome that oversight. And to have it permanent, I think, strips away a little bit of that additional oversight, I think. So I'm having a little bit of a difficulty figuring out which way I want to go, and I encourage you to wrestle with that idea as well. Should we make it permanent, or should it have a sunset?
Good afternoon all. Joe Alvarado, District 5. Since I had a speech prepared for the merging of the two meetings together, but since it's only Measure E being presented tonight, I'll still make the same comments since all of you are up here. I hope that all of you encourage the department heads who are going to come up here and give their reports to make sure they're very clear about which measure they're talking about. The two measures, bringing them into one meeting, it can be confusing for people who are at home or don't understand what the two measures are about. So I just encourage you guys to make sure that you're asking the right questions and making sure that we differentiate the two measures instead of just bringing them all together into one meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Name is Eric Peterson. And Tuesday's supervisors had a long discussion on various taxes, and something interesting popped up. Seems Salinas transient occupancy tax is 7%, the lowest in Monterey County. Marina is 14%. There is an opportunity to get taxed without Salinas people having to pay it. And with the volatility of elections, if they're going for a sales tax, and we're going for a sales tax. I was involved in Measure K, as was Steve, which got 39%. It's not a slam dunk. And has to be done, all the planets have to line up to have a chance of success. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yolanda Hayes, District 6. I just wanted to say that we want to vote for this measure, but we see so much wasteful spending. You jump from one project to another project, and I don't know how it plays. I've been told that there's been a budget for it, and that's how they end up paying for it. I asked last night at last night's meeting. I don't think Salinas has ever, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're looking at the books, have they ever come under budget on any project? I'm really concerned because when I worked in the industry, we had to work hard to make sure we were not over budget, under budget. My husband had a job where he used to go into companies, and that was his job, looking for ways of cutting back. It just seems that Salinas, the more money we get, the more money we spend. And you don't stick to the priorities. I've been asking for things for years. We still don't have any lights on Independence, Little River, no lights. So how is it supposed to be what the people want that those funds were supposed to manage if they were never done? Yet other things that the proposition says it was going to do, it doesn't do. So I'm really confused. I know we need the money, but we'll always need the money. The more we get, the more we spend. So please look at those books carefully and make a judgment out of that. Thank you.
Do we have any comments on Zoom? We will now receive a report from Abe Pedrosa, Assistant Finance Director.
Good afternoon, committee members. Abe Pedrosa, Assistant Finance Director. I'm here to present the Measure E Fiscal Year 2025-26 Quarter 3 Financial Report as of March 31st, 2026. Please note the numbers are unaudited. Measure V was a 1/2 cent general transaction and use tax approved by Salinas voters in 2005 for a 10-year term with an expiration year of 2016. In 2012, Measure V became Measure E when Salinas voters approved the renewal language of the transaction and use tax with no expiration date by removing the language addressing the sunset. It is projected to generate $7.2 million in sales tax revenue for fiscal year 25-26, supporting a wide range of essential city services and projects. This slide details Measure E revenue budget versus actuals. The total revenue budget is $18.5 million, which also includes investment earnings. We are showing 63% received for the transaction and use tax revenue and 62% overall. As I've mentioned before, this only reflects the months of July through January due to the timing of when we receive payment from the state. The benchmark for 7 of 12 months is 58%, so we're coming in just ahead of pace with February revenues expected to be received shortly. Next, we have the departmental operating budget versus actuals expenditures. The detail by department and division are provided in the financial report attached to the agenda, with copies provided before you now. As we scroll through the departments, there is nothing of concern identified. Finance, police, fire, recreation, and library all come in under budget 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year, mostly due to salary savings. Overall, before non-departmental expenditures and transfers, Measure E spending for the city is currently at 65% of the budgeted amount. Included in the departmental expenditures are 90.5 positions funded by Measure E in the library, police, recreation, and fire departments. These positions support various programs, including the Steinbeck, Cesar Chavez, and El Gabilan libraries, as well as community education and technical services. In the police and fire departments, they support personnel and training, special operations, support services, evidence and property, field operations, and fire administration. In recreation, they support parks and community services, after-school programs, and youth services and community engagement. The next section is non-departmental expenditures. Capital projects is at 16% transferred and will be discussed in the next slide. Transfers out to the internal service funds occur twice per year in December and June. These include general liability, property insurance, and fleet maintenance. Transfers out to fund debt service, mainly the El Gabilan Library, coincide with when the principal and interest payments are made on the debt. And lastly, our Measure E's portions of the emergency 911 and animal services contracts. Overall, non-departmental spending for the city is at 27% of the budgeted amount as of March 31st, and that's mainly due to capital projects skewing that percentage downwards. The next section of the financial report is the capital improvement program. We are currently showing expenditures through February 28th due to the normal one-month lag to complete the proper allocation of expenditures to their respective funding sources. Various projects are detailed in the financial report in the Fire, Public Works, Recreation, and Library departments. Included on screen now is a listing of some of the major projects funded by Measure E, including the District 5 Recreation Center, playground and park improvements, street and sidewalk repairs, fire renovations, and library upgrades. And that concludes my presentation. Staff is here for any questions.
Any-
I have a question. So from a standpoint of what we're spending, like the El Gavilan debt service. What's the dollars there?
The budget on the El Gavilan debt service, page 3 of the financial report, is 1.5 million
1.5 million,
for fiscal year 25-26.
25, 26, okay. Then the insurance premiums?
That is on page 2. General liability at 491,000. Property insurance, 214,000.
491 and 214,
Correct.
okay. Fleet maintenance,
That's also on page 2 of the financial report, and that is 176,000.
176,000, okay. What was the animal services, please?
That's on, you said animal services?
Yes,
That's also on page 3, and that's 275,000.
I know what page they're on, so I'm just jotting it down here for my column.
Okay.
Energy efficient debt service,
351,000.
okay. Emergency.
Oh, energy, I'm sorry. That's 68,900.
That makes more sense, yeah. 68 and 9,
Correct.
emergency dispatch,
351,000.
okay. Perfect, thank you.
All right.
Committee Member Fregosa, do you have any questions?
I do. He's Chief Acosta, if I may.
Yes.
Police Chief, I want to congratulate you for your police department yesterday's meeting. In terms of data and analysis, demonstrated how we were seeing a reduction in crime and all those type of things. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy for our community. It's staying safer. I also want to mention there's $2.4 million on personnel and training on Measure E. On our last meeting, I misconstrued perhaps my approach and my questioning, but from that budget there, is there any extracurricular training for our officers in terms of perhaps like leadership or social responsibilities? I know the city of Watsonville, for example, back in January, they had officers participate in the Sherman Block Supervisory Leadership Institute. Does the city of Salinas participate in any similar things, and does Measure E cover some of those costs?
Thank you for your comment. We deeply appreciate it. And to answer your question, yes, we do. We just had one of our sergeants graduate from the Sherman Block Leadership Academy last year. We have our commanders who attend their command college. We have one commander that's actually going to apply for command college. Every commander that's promoted within 2 years has to attend a post-certified management school, which is 3 weeks. We also have officers and sergeants that attend leadership courses throughout the region here locally. And then there's every sergeant also attends an internal affairs investigation course. You know, we encourage development, professional development on the sworn side as well as the professional side as well. So some of those funds go through a lot of those trainings. And we are just graduating our class tomorrow of the Critical Incident Training, CIT, which is a course that I think is very valuable and important for every police officer that's employed here at the city. And we're happy to report we're going to be close to 100% compliance for every police officer learning CIT training. So,
Perfect. And all these trainings are funded through these tax measures through E and G?
yes, all in E.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Committee Member Carlson?
No questions.
Committee Member Morales?
No questions.
I do have a question for Mr. Pedrosa. You, if I understood correctly, you mentioned that there was a salary savings. And the report, you presented that we fund 90.5 positions. Are all those positions filled?
No, that's what would account for the salary savings.
Is it recruitment issues, or do you know why some of the positions might be vacant?
Thank you for the question. Our HR Director, Marina Gallegos, is here to respond to some of that.
I would unfortunately, I don't have the list of Measure E funded positions that are creating the reference salary savings, but we are recruiting for all departments at we're at various stages of the recruitment process. We have personnel requisitions, and for some of those vacancies, we're looking at job description updates. We're in the middle of panel interviews, department interviews, but I know that most of those positions are in library and community services, and we do have recruitments in progress and eligibility lists, so we are actively working through the recruitment process.
Thank you. That was my question. Any questions from Measure G Committee? I'll start with Committee Member Fields.
No questions on E.
And Committee Member, is it McCallum? McCallum.
No questions at this time.
We are now open for public comment on this item. Any comments on Zoom? No comments? Any comments from our general public?
Yeah, I'll say it in Montebello community. I'm just I'm a little confused because I see a savings of salary. I'm thinking, is that the jobs that they post and they never fill to piggyback and save the money, or how does that work? I mean, I hope somebody can give me a call with that answer. Email me at el.bigguerra@gmail.com or call me at 831-905-0537. I'd like to know that for sure. I think we're just allocating jobs that don't exist, ghost jobs. I don't like that. That means you guys are padding money in the back and saving it and not being transparent with the public. So we have a lot of money that's not been funded in the direction that it should be, and we could fix our roads, infrastructure, lights, streets, sidewalks. We could do a lot of things with that money instead of trying to create jobs we don't have available. It seems like we never have enough personnel in any department. Are we that bad as a city that we cannot hire the right people? I know we have great people in this city. Why can't we hire enough people to fill those jobs? Why is there such a demand of jobs not being fulfilled in the city? You guys need to look at that. Those are the questions you guys need to be asking up there. Why? Why are these jobs not filled? I mean, is it the background check? What are you guys doing with the background check? Is it that extent that, you know, some people are criminals, they can't get a job, or what is it? Or is it just that you're picky and you don't like them? Because they're not part of your team. Is that what it is? I mean, that's what I want to know. Sad. I mean, those are the questions you guys should be asking up there. Why are they padding so many jobs that don't exist? Thank you. Those are all my questions. Have a great day. God bless you.
Any comments from Measure E committee? I'll start with Committee Member Fregosa.
I have some questions on debt services that are on the books. Public safety building debt service, for example, or anything that has a debt service, really. For example, Measure G is not up for renewal, but we have debt services. So why would the city go into a debt service on a tax measure that's not made yet permanent? Why would they go with that route, or why would they kind of go with that philosophy of running the city that way? So I guess that's kind of my overall question.
Committee Member Fregoso, if I may clarify, this is any final comments in regards to the Measure E financial report for March 31st, 2026?
For Measure E?
For Measure E, yes, we're still on this.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll leave that as a comment then.
Okay.
I'll leave that as a comment. Why is the city, or either, I mean, E is made permanent, but G is not. So I guess it's kind of my same question. Why, or not question, my comment. Why would the city run that way? This tax measure isn't made permanent yet there's debt services in place. And I don't know if the terminology is wrong or not, because Kristen on our last meeting told me that sometimes they're lease agreements. So if it's a lease agreement, it's not necessarily technically debt. So those are just my comments.
Thank you. Committee Member Ish, any comments?
Yeah, I think I want to go back to Measure E, the revenue budget versus actuals. So when I look at the expenditure budget versus actuals, looks like it's 7.1, almost 7.2, and then 13.5. Those are correct numbers.
I'm not, where are you at? Sorry.
I'm on page 4.
Committee Member Ish, if I may, at this time, we are only doing comments on this item. The time period for questions has already passed, so it's only final comments on the Measure E financial report.
Financial report, Measure E.
Yes, the presentation that just passed, it's only final comments on that.
Please, don't have another session like this, please. Let E and G be their own, separate.
Committee Member Carlson, any comments?
No comments.
Committee Member Morales?
No comments.
I do have a comment. Just hearing from the public comments, I think it would be a good idea to maybe in the future, if we can get a report once a capital improvement budget or capital improvement project is completed, where we can see what the proposed budget was and then the actual budget was. So then we know how much savings there was. And also with the salaries, it would also be good to see what positions are currently open, if there's supposed to be 90 positions that are supposed to be covered under this measure, and there's some vacancies. I mean, the city also needs to know what the impact is of not having personnel filled those positions. Those are my comments. And thank you again for the report. Getting the report a little bit early and a lot more detailed is really helpful. Any comments from Measure G Committee for Measure E? I'll start with Committee Member Field.
My only comment would be to agree with Mr. Ish that these should be separate committees. This is too confusing getting E information at the last minute when I prepared for G. And we don't have a quorum, but I would recommend we go back to separating them.
Committee Member Mike Caleb, any comments?
I'm sorry, I feel as though I walked into something I know nothing about. So I'm an honest person. There we go. So my only comment is please bear with me as I learn all the ins and outs of these budgets and who's doing what to whom and where and when and why. That's my comment. Thank you.
We will now receive a report from A. Pedrosa, Assistant Finance Director.
Okay, good afternoon, committee members. A. Pedrosa, Assistant Finance Director. It's going to sound familiar, similar here. I'm here to present the Measure G fiscal year 2025-26 quarter 3 financial report as of March 31st. Again, these numbers are unaudited. Measure G is a 1-cent general transaction and use tax approved by Salinas voters in 2014. It is projected to generate $34.5 million in sales revenue for fiscal year 25-26, supporting a wide range of essential city services and projects. And this slide details revenue budget versus actuals. The total revenue budget is $36.1 million, which includes investment earnings. We are showing 63% received for the transaction and use tax revenue and 62% overall, only reflecting the months of July through January. 7 out of 12 months is 58%. So again, we're coming in just ahead of pace. Next, we have the departmental operating expenditure budget versus actuals. And again, the details provided in your financial report going over the various departments and divisions, and I provided the copies for you there. As we scroll through the departments, there is nothing of concern identified. The various departments, administration, human resources, finance, community development, police, fire, public works, and recreation are all coming in at or slightly under budget 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. Overall, before the non-departmental expenditures and transfers, Measure G is currently at 71% of the budgeted amount. Included in the departmental expenditures are 106.5 positions funded by Measure G in the Public Works, Police, Recreation, Fire, Community Development, Finance, Human Resources, and Administration departments. These positions support various programs, including accounting, information technology, human resources, code enforcement, traffic, violence suppression, fire suppression and prevention, engineering, street maintenance, urban forestry, parks and community services, and more. Okay, this slide shows the relation over time between the sales and use tax revenue generated by Measure G on the vertical axis versus a number of budgeted positions on the horizontal axis. Beginning with its inception, 55 and 79 positions were funded by Measure G over the first 2 years, as it generated approximately 20 to 25 million. That has grown to 106 positions and approximately 35 million over the last 3 fiscal years. The next section is non-departmental expenditures. Capital projects is at 23% transferred and will be discussed in the next slide. Transfers out to the internal service funds occur twice per year in December and June. These include general liability, property insurance, and fleet maintenance. Transfers out to fund debt service, mainly the public safety building, coincide with when the principal and interest payments are made on that debt. And just to address the question earlier, the debt service on the police building, I don't have the exact specifics on the financing, but the final payment is on December 1st, 2032. So it was intentional to align it more or less with the sunset of Measure G, if that ever came to be. And lastly, on Measure G's portion of the emergency 911 and animal services contracts. Overall, non-departmental spending for the city is at 41% of the budgeted amount as of March 31st. The next section of the financial report is the capital improvement program, again showing expenditures through February 28th. Various projects are detailed in the report in the community development, fire, public works, and recreation departments. Included on the screen now is a listing of some of the major projects funded by Measure G, including street and sidewalk repairs, Baranda Road, Alisal Vibrancy Plan, the District 5 Recreation Center, athletic field repairs, community center and park improvements, and the fire training tower. This graphic illustrates the importance of Measure G, which amounts to 38% of the city's sales and use tax revenue and 19% of the total general fund revenue. As a limited time measure, it is set to expire in 2030, potentially leaving the city with a significant annual revenue gap of over $40.6 million if not renewed. And that concludes my presentation. Again, staff is here for any questions.
Are there any comments for members to report on? I'll start with Committee Member Fregosa.
Are we doing comments right now?
Hold on, I might have missed. Questions?
Questions? I guess I have a rhetorical question for the public, and that is that I understand that Measure G is up for renewal, and I don't intend to be illogical. Personally, myself, I don't believe in high taxes, but I don't want to see our city fall into a deficit either. So I have that too. But the rhetorical question is in order to have truly unregulated free market enterprise, how are we supposed to also convince, private institutions like Walmart and Costco to come and invest in our city if they see we have a lot of tax measures in place? Free market enterprise dictated by prices. So you have these tax measures, and it means that everything gets more expensive. So that's just food for thought. I said I don't want to be illogical about this. I understand that their city would go into a deficit without it, and to keep it going forward, perhaps need it, but that's just food for thought. So I yield my time.
Committee Member Ish? Committee Member Cosson?
No questions.
Committee Member Morales?
No questions as well.
I have no questions. Any questions from Measure G Committee? Committee Member Field?
I just want to say that I enjoyed the presentation last night, and I am pro-fire and pro-police, and I would be very, I guess I'll say, sad if we diminish the quantity of particular police we have. We need to get up to the total quantity that we need for both police and fire, particularly if we are going to think about having another fire station. Thank you.
Committee Member McCullough?
I have a couple of questions on G. Of the 106.5 positions, Are there any openings there, and where would those be? I don't necessarily expect an answer today, but I would like to have an answer on that. Is there an answer right now?
I don't have an answer now, but we can get that for you, yeah.
Okay. Another question I have is regarding the bar chart on page 3, the position times series. I'm looking at the chart, and it looks as though there's potentially excess income, revenue, if you will, versus the positions. Am I looking at that correctly? Or is that just the way it shows up?
I think it was just showing a relationship between the revenue that it was bringing in and the positions that are being funded, and they're both kind of following a similar trajectory.
Okay. That may negate my other question. I was wondering, if there is excess revenue that it doesn't get all spent, where does that money go?
It just stays in the fund balance of Measure G or Measure E and can be appropriated at a future time.
Thank you. That's all I have.
We are now open for public comment on this item.
Hi, Jose Garza, Montebello Community. I got a couple of questions here. I have a lot of, I guess I don't understand why all our CIP projects are way over budget. We start at a number, and we're all, by the time we're done, we're double or almost 3 times that number to get them done. I don't know why we have so many great finance people in our city. Why are we having issues doing that, first of all? And then, 40.6 million, if we don't have this pass, by that year, what's a real number going to be? 80, 120? Do we know? And then if I'm pro-fire and pro-police also, but I'd like what Mrs. Field said, we need to have it. We need to have it. But how do we go from, I know we used to have 200 officers here, I believe, I don't know how many years ago. How are we down to 120? Did we defund this up here? Did somebody up here defund the police, or what happened? Why are we so short on officers? This town is so big. There's so much crime in this town. You guys don't see it all. Come to the east side, you can see a lot of it. There's a lot of crime here, and you guys, it's not reported. No one says anything about it. There is crime in Salinas. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. There is. You just live in the wrong area, or your area is protected a lot better than mine. No disrespect for that, but that's the way it goes sometimes. It goes with the territory, I guess. But, we need pro-police. We need pro-fire. We need this to pass, but we need transparency from the city. We need to trust you with our money. We need to be able to trust you guys when you take our money and reallocate it in different areas. And let the public know. Let the public know where the money's going. There's nothing wrong with letting us know. I had a question the day at the Traffic Commission. Oh, we don't need to disclose that. Did you know that they got $10 million for the permit center? Where's that money at? What did they get for the other restaurants that came in the last years? Thank you all. God bless you.
Any comments from Measure E committee? I'll start with the committee member Fregosa.
Just want to say, all in all, really, aside from the potential discourse or the political weight any questioning may have, I just hope that all these resources are being, used for the beautification of our community, being used with efficiency. Not a big fan of debt services, especially with tax measures. But all in all, I just hope that we just use it for, like I said, for the beautification of our community and for our youth too. Invest a lot in our youth. I know there's a lot of the Hebron Center, for example. I want to commend and everybody involved in that. I think it really helped out, especially that part of town. So kudos to that. But all in all, really, we could just use these money as efficiently as possible. I think that's the best route we could take with what's in hand. So thank you, and yield my time.
Committee member Ish.
Yes, I just want to make sure I maybe got my point across. I hope the next time I'm in this rotunda, it is only for Measure E. That is what I'm on. And those that are on Measure G, you take care of G. I'll participate and take care of E. I can't participate and take care of both.
Committee Member Carlson?
No comment.
Committee Member Morales?
No comment.
I have no comment. Any comments from Measure G Committee? Committee Member Fields?
No comment.
Committee Member McKillop?
Sure. Actually, I had a question from before, but just my comment. In looking at Public Works and CIP, it says that there are street and sidewalk repairs going on, but there's only been an actual expenditure of $34,823. I'd like to know where that money was spent for and what's going on with the rest of it. Thank you.
There is one item on consent agenda for Measure E Oversight Committee. Would anybody from Measure E Committee like to pull for discussion? Request a motion for the minutes of January 15, 2026. Can I get a second?
Second.
Calling for the motion made to approve the minutes of January 15, 2026. Committee Member Fregoso?
Yes.
Committee Member Ish?
Yes.
Committee Member Kelson?
Yes.
Committee Member Morales?
Yes.
Chair Hobby?
Yes.
Motion passed.
We will now move to final comments of the report. Committee Member Fregoso? Committee Member Ish? Committee Member Carlson?
No comments.
Committee Member Morales? I just want to say thank you to the staff again for preparing the report. It was very helpful this time with the additional preps that we got. Any comments from Measure G? Final comments. Committee Member Field?
No.
Committee Member McKillop?
No.
This meeting is adjourned at 4:52.